if this was made in June, I'd guarantee this qualify as a Pride Month video. This was recorded in June, but I think this will be uploaded in July. We'll see. Anyways, Honkai Star Rail is a pretty interesting game, and as much as it would be cool to say I was sponsored by them and I can get money, nah, that kind of we're not there yet. Anyways, as requested, I will do a Honkai Star Rail video, or you guys wanted one, so I might as well do a format that I might continue and maybe do a Monsterverse version sometime in the future and do the top 10 strongest playable characters in Honkai Star Rail. Now, for some basic guidelines, all characters will be at their full power and their prime state, and they will have intent to kill, as well as it being a neutral battlefield, so on and so forth. And I won't be including Herta, as we don't really see much from her. She is an Emanator, but she doesn't really do anything, really. So we can't really scale her that much. If we were to give her the benefit of the doubt and just place her on the fact that she's an Emanator, we know she'd be kinda high, but also not really. But if you want to place her somewhere, place her where we put Black Swan and Jing Yuan. Small spoiler. But anyways, those are the other facts. People aren't gonna like this, but Welt isn't top 10. We'll get into more specific reasonings later on why a lot of other characters are above him. But to keep things simple, Welt is at his prime in pure power, AP, durability wise, as stated by his character trailer at best. The game questions if he has it or not, and it's unsure. The only thing Welt might be missing is some specific tricks or items, which I don't think would ultimately change much. They're not as strong as a lot of other characters' abilities on this list. Or the other characters are just too strong and smart for Welt to either A, use these abilities to any effectiveness, or B, for them to even go off at all. Anyways, going on to the list.
The math is simple. There's no way to define the value of a single chip. But I believe a chip is worth...
Number 10, we have the start of the Homokoni Aventurine. Coming from Sigonia before the IPC intervened and took him in, eventually becoming one of the 10 Stonehearts and attempt to make an opening for IPC in Penacony. Which is really sad. Like, he does all this shit, and it's just for an opening, like, holy shit. Originally, before 2.3, he was gonna be higher, however, we only learned that Stonehearts are, instead of just outright being Emanator level, they're just only 1/10 Emanator level. As before, they were just implied to be outright Emanator level, but for some reason it's now taken back, I guess. Or we now have to look at the statements in a new meaning, as it's just outright said it's only 1/10 Emanator level. Anyways, he's able to press Welt, Himiko, March, and the MC, and was seemingly winning. Acheron was there too in base, but she wasn't attacking, just standing there. And when she tried, well, oof. But moving on, number 9 I'd say is a tie between two characters, since I see it going either way, so I'll go over them one by one.
Punishable by death.
The consequences.
Number 9 is Heng IL. Dan Heng, or Dan Fang, whatever you want to call him, they scale to each other, so it doesn't really matter. Dan Heng, or previously known as Dan Feng, is a previous member of the High Cloud Quintet before his betrayal, in using the flesh of the abundance to try and revive an old friend, but eventually, when this failed, he became a sinner to the Law Fu. Dan Heng is quite the intimidating force, being able to harm Fantalia. He was
Watching over the armor?
Able to press the MC, March, and Walt all at once, and is an Emanator as she is a Lord Ravager. And Fantalia is also able to hard Yuan and make him struggle, however Yuan was mostly setting up for a trap and eventually overpowered her. And Fantalia is more powerful in a true form. Dan Heng still did better than Welt, the MC, and March. He also performs a similar feat, arguably doing more damage to Sunday than Fantalia, considering he was able to put Sunday on his ass for quite a bit, while Fantalia is just kind of mildly dazed.
Born from the remains of the gods!
Dan Heng?
Radiant spirits.
And Sunday is also an Emanator, and the same Rubot was pressing the same group but with Himiko this time. The main problem with his scaling and why I didn't put him higher, as from a glance he should be higher, but he just has a lot of direct scaling below other people on this list, which we will get to.
As for missions, I can do this in my sleep.
And then we have Silverwolf, the genius hacker from Punk Lord, being the newest for now. Whenever Sunday gets added, recruit of the Stellaron Hunters. She made her name known through the galaxy as the best hacker in the entire universe. Something speed-wise to note is that she is able to keep both Kafka, Blade, and Acheron, even if it's just made by an illusion by Sparkle, which probably makes it a weaker version, considering several abilities are omitted, which they use commonly in combat. Kafka doesn't use her strings, which she used against basic IPC guards. Blade doesn't use his Mara, and Silverwolf doesn't use a ton of abilities she once again uses on random ass enemies that she would likely find inferior to Acheron in character. Same with Kafka. But the main reason why she's so strong is her hacks. She is Aether editing, which she can do casually and freely. And this is just basic. This is just outright fucking reality warping. It's just that simple. It's reality warping. She can do things like battlefield removal casually, negating attacks, existence erasure, boundary manipulation, life manipulation, rule and law manipulation. However, these are likely more reality warping as a pretty broad hack, so I wouldn't be surprised if she can do other things that fall under this category. And it should also be noted she holds back pretty significantly, which is why she often doesn't use a lot of things that would, like a lot of her higher tier hacks, automatically, and sticks to things like lasers and swords often. She holds back to the point where she actively plays and taunts her opponents, even going as far to say that she views the world as a game to her and treating it as such. And this is probably a weakness for her, since this is more in character. Even when she's trying to go all out and kill someone, she doesn't take her opponent too seriously at the start. And another weakness that she doesn't have much durability feats. And as previously mentioned, in character she is extremely overcocky and not used to using her OP abilities instantly, leading to a lot of people faster than her and more powerful getting past her and exploiting her really weak durability. And is probably the slowest of the Stellaron Hunters, considering she keeps with Acheron the least. And in rare cases when characters have prep time, like Herta and Screw'em, when they have vast prep time and knowledge of her, they were able to set up a trap and outsmart her. However, this is pretty rare, and I don't see anyone else on the list doing this, since A, no one else here is really as smart as them, and B, they wouldn't have prep time, or have previous knowledge about Silverwolf.
Of course, it'll be dangerous.
How big?
IPC big enough.
You have a new bounty. Please process it as soon as possible.
Dangerous? Well, fudge. Dangerous for who?
Next we have Boothill, the Galaxy Ranger who is a victim of the IPC, who vows to get his revenge by any means necessary. Boothill's main feat is when he meets Dan Heng. Dan Heng is so terrified by simply hearing the fact that Boothill is a Galaxy Ranger that the only way he seemed to think he could win was to call Jing Yuan, which the whole implication of this is that he didn't think that Dan Heng IL would be able to beat him, so he's just directly above Dan Heng IL. And Acheron outright calls him fast, which should put him above the Stellar Hunters in speed, considering they can only keep up with Acheron, while Acheron just outright calls Boothill quite fast. Boothill's builds also go through time, space, and fate, and one of his explosive bullets are able to one-shot Topaz Jade and Aventurine and Explosion. Granted, they aren't in there, or at least Aventurine isn't using his Stone Heart. The other Stone Hearts are varied, we don't know what they can do. Other than that, he sadly has nothing. He's mainly here just due to the fact he is directly above Dan Heng, and he'd probably be able to blitz Silver Wolf as well.
Sword will be the last thing you see.
Next we move on to Blade. The second newest member of the Swan Hunters is a Mara-stricken beast given the curse of immortality after messing with the flesh of abundance and becoming a traitor to the Lawfu. His main ability is immortality, which is so strong that he can come back from any injury, disease, and even death itself cannot claim him.
Through unexpected circumstances, Blade became immortal. His body recovers from the worst of sicknesses and the gravest of injuries, even from death itself.
He can take things such as being smashed to pieces, stabbed repeatedly, so on and so forth. And this durability and immortality is so strong it's outright compared to being Emanator level, and that only people who are Emanators or can compare to other Emanators can truly defeat him. And he's also implied to be at least physically stronger than Kafka, not only by Elio, Silverwolf, and Dan Heng, but the two are comparable to speed, and obviously he's stronger than Silverwolf and can blitz her. He also scales way above base Dan Heng, considering it's not only in their script that Blade cannot kill Dan Heng, he actively admits he enjoys toying with Dan Heng. And the fact that Kafka's Spirit Whisper holds his Mara back and can only be released at Kafka's will, meaning he is never fully trying, as the Mara would give him a stat amp, essentially.
Whenever Blade gets scary, it's the Mara flaring up.
Isn't he always scary?
He usually does what I tell him.
I should probably unpack that a little. Blade relies on Kafka's Spirit Whisper to suppress the Mara inside him.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. You know, most of the time, Bladey's a nice, quiet boy.
Totally. He's not a strong communicator, that's for sure.
And based on Hung is relatively comparable to IL, maybe a bit below, but the fact that he massively holding back Blade can dominate based on Hung should mean he's above IL. We also even know that Blade could have outright killed Dan Heng in their encounter.
But why would he suddenly reveal it after hiding it for so long?
Let's not forget he did get impaled. Yeah, I think if he'd kept it under wraps any longer, he might have had trouble staying alive. You know, desperate times, desperate measures.
Okay, it makes sense.
And while some Lycons may imply that relative, it is still a holding back Blade who eventually always wins these encounters, leaving Dan Heng running away in fear. As for his fight against Jingliu, she was not in full power, as we'll get into later, but Blade can at least tag her and keep up with her speed-wise. However, even in this state, he only really subscales.
All units, target spotting! Target spotting! Stick to the plan, shoot on sight! I repeat, shoot on sight!
Don't be afraid. Listen to me. Wasn't it you who invited me?
Next we move on to the first member of the Swan Hunters, Kafka, the woman who feels no fear, being their leader. She's mainly here just due to her Spirit Whisper, which she is faster than Silverwolf, and we know it can just outright control Blade and Dan Heng. So she'd pretty easily just use the Spirit Whisper on them to deal with them in 9 out of 10 scenarios. And it's not like she's not Silverwolf and where she will just automatically use her abilities if she wants to take care of a situation. She's also referred to as the most dangerous of the Stellaron hunters, which excludes Sam, as we'll get to later. And while holding back and actively wanting to lose, physically she can 3v1 the MC, Wealth, and March to a standstill.
What are you afraid of?
Next we get to Black Swan, the Memo Keeper and Emanator of the Remembrance. While we meet other Memo Keepers, such as the one of the Express, none are truly as powerful as Black Swan. Like Kafka, she can also manipulate the mind, however seemingly on a higher degree. Alright, stating she can go so far as to convince people she is an Eon and just mind wipe people casually while distracted. So anyone Kafka can control, Black Swan should be able to mind wipe or control on a higher degree. And as mentioned before, Black Swan is heavily implied to be an outright Emanator. And Weltz is also fearful of a basic Memo Keeper's power, who should be below Black Swan. Black Swan can also overpower this thing, I forget its name, and this god was overpowering the main character as well.
If you don't know the right technique, you might never return from the shadow of death, emerging without a scratch. Easy, girl. I'm on your side.
Get careless.
You can call me the Memo Keeper, Black Swan. See you next time. Hurry.
Well, she's just non-physical, so a lot of characters that have a hard time even hitting her. She is just a stronger Kafka with better mind hacks and better hacks in general, and being an Emanator helps too.
So, have you decided yet?
Your turn, General.
Bold indeed. Kids these days. A little too naive. It is a warrior's game. Singular encounters with endless possibility.
Next we have Jing Yuan, the leader of the Cloud Knights and the general of the Luofu, and the only alive member of the High Cloud Quintet who is still pretty okay in the head, the original student of Jingliu and mentor to Yan Qing. Like Black Swan, Jing Yuan is also an Emanator of the Hunt. However, it is more direct than Black Swan. We also know Lightning Lord is Lan and Eon's power outright. We know Jing Yuan could outright defeat the Sunday robot, who was also an Emanator, and as mentioned before, can press Wealth, Himiko, March, and the MC, and can kill Fentalia, or at least this version of Fentalia, who is once again able to press Wealth, MC, and March, which makes sense considering how March thinks the general as all-powerful. While Jing Yuan can do better against Jingliu than Blade, who was holding back less excluding the end of their fight, however, it is still weaker. It's still a weaker Jingliu, as once again we'll get to in the next year. He still does better than Blade, and with Lightning Lord is able to overcome her. Now, 3 and 2 are relatively interchangeable, and I wouldn't care if you put one above the other, but for this,
The darkening mists shroud the radiant moon. Bound by blindness, one is cast into Mara with a sharp blade, yet still powerless against the demons. With this blade as my core, the inner self is purged.
At number 3, we have Jingliu. Jingliu was the leader of the High Cloud Quintet and was the champion swordmaster of the Law Fu before she became Mara-struck and was erased from their records. Something to note is that current Jingliu is much weaker than her prime past self. Not only stated by herself, we know that she made a deal to essentially limit her Mara and make it so she can control it better, which, being Mara-struck, is once again a stat amp. And we also know that as of now, her mind is at her limit, so she's mentally nerfed right now, if anything. However, this current base is still regarded as the strongest thing on the Law Fu, and that nobody could really take her in. And while not even really wanting to fight Blade in this weaker state, she easily beats him, and even now, Luocha considers her superior to Jing Yuan. Another emanated short, she overpowers a base Jing Yuan without letting a lord pretty casually. And it's even outright stated this was the case too. And she only really lost because of the aforementioned weakened state, and B, it is implied that she let herself be defeated. As the end, we can kind of see she stops trying to fight. And now for her past self, she could go on to beat Blade thousands and thousands of times effortlessly. And we also know that she beat Dan Heng. We don't know what the fight was like, but she beat him. She's also considered the strongest of the High Cloud Quintet, and the reason why it's so renowned. She can even 3v1 Jing Yuan with Lightning Lord, Dan Heng IL, and Blade and just outright win. Even feats-wise, you don't even need the statements. Jingliu is superior to her current self. Jingliu is also faster than time outright, or at least her attacks and reactions are. She can cut through space and time directly. And she has some form of transcending her limitations and obstacles in battle, whatever you want to call it.
Strike unit will engage target! We're under fire! Darn it! Is the experimental weapon ready yet? Darn!
Unfortunately, I was also born a weapon to be destroyed. It's our destiny!
Number 2 is Sam, the second member of the Stellaron Hunters and the Molten Knight that fought against the Swarm invasion. Now known as Firefly, she roams the universe with the Stellaron Hunters. Firefly is outright stated to be the scariest of the Stellaron Hunters, but by Silverwolf, and is the strongest according to Silverwolf, and is so faster than the rest according to Silverwolf that she can outright blitz them. Sam can also just outright manhandle Blade easily, and is considered as dangerous as Kafka and Blade combined. Sam is also utterly praised by Welt for his power and skills, and is said to be able to manhandle the MC. So even by Welt's own opinion, Welt seems to think that Sam is impressive and at least comparable, if not above, his power, which considering his place on the tier list, he's definitely above Welt. However, getting onto his more impressive feats, we see Welt only trying to divert the group away and not necessarily trying to kill or outright defeat them. He's able to 3v1 base Acheron Black Swan on the MC, while being later shedded on the MC was still beaten up regardless. And we also know, and Black Swan also ran away from the confrontation, and Acheron couldn't really do anything to Sam in this base state. And once again, we'll get to Acheron later. And we even know that Sam can just resist the effects of her time stop domain as he traveled inside of it to save the MC. And his fire attacks are just straight up their ability negation if you didn't get this character enough. Sam also has a transformation which is more powerful than base. We don't have much for this transformation other than it being more powerful than base, and he gets swords now. And he's seemingly able to fly faster. We also see that he can take Acheron's red slash to the face. Once again, we'll get to Acheron.
Apply your color.
Illusion or reality? Care to guess?
Either way, dusk's wane, it too shall fall.
Number 1. Acheron. You'll never guess what this character's sexuality is. The self-annihilator who disguised herself as a Galaxy Ranger, stealing the invitation and killing Ifrit, eventually before revealing herself as the Emanator who should not exist. Acheron just in base can kill Boothill. One-shots and bullets to Trailblazer, stated by Aventurine to be the strongest out of Welt, Himiko, March, and the MC, stated to be above the Memo Keepers and above the Sunday Robot. She's above 2 top-tier Emanators outright, and Welt is outright fearful of her. Her base is considered stronger than everyone else on Penacony, which includes Sam, Jing, Yuan, Black Swan, so on and so forth, and can passively negate other paths and bypass them. This is still base, by the way. This is still fucking base. We haven't even gotten to her true form. This is still base, and she's above everyone else. Speaking of that negating other path shit, it's not that bad. She can just negate an Eon's power passively, which the entirety of Penacony was affected by the way. She can even infiltrate into other paths passively. She is unbound by other abilities passively. Oh yeah, did I mention that paths are just philosophical concepts, by the way? Replace paths with concepts. She can just ignore conceptual attacks. Yeah, that's fun. Oh yeah, did I mention this extends to ignoring concepts such as speed and types? Oh yeah, then there's her full power, when she actually starts to try. When she actually started to try, she one-shotted Aventurine. And she creates a fucking domain expansion like Gojo that stops space and time, and not only one-shotted Aventurine, as mentioned before, bypassed and negated his power and paths, and also BFR'd him. What the fuck? She cut through a fucking concept with a single slash. Imagine if Acheron was actually trying, and actually, did several slashes, or took more advantage of her abilities, and wasn't just fucking casual and nonchalant half the time. We won't even delve into any comparisons with Honkai Impact, how she could kill fucking Kevin, or can kill the HSRs. That's just even more bullshit. Yeah, this is someone who thinks that Welt can beat, by the way. This is crazy. Especially with what we've seen throughout the other list. Yeah. So, what have we learned today? That's a good question, actually. Well, we learned that Acheron, you don't fucking mess with Acheron. That's all.